Hey everybody, Melissa Ramos here. Really jazzed about doing this call because of the fact that we're going to be talking about some startling root causes. I don't want to say root causes. I want to say causative factors behind hypothyroidism. And I think that this call is so freaking important because of the fact that thyroid conditions become more prevalent as women get older. So if you are one of the many women that I have definitely seen in my professional journey where you've gone to the doctor and they've said, oh, everything is normal, but you don't feel normal, there's a reason for that. And I also want to share something that I sent out in an email today, which was that oftentimes, when we look at thyroid dysfunction, they get dismissed so often, but it becomes so prevalent as women get older, but especially even thyroid nodules. One of the stats that I put out there was that when a woman is about 50 years old, she has a 50% chance of developing a thyroid nodule. And that is a really, really big deal because they can be very scary. You may feel, oh my gosh, is this going to be cancerous? What do I do? And I want to break down some things that you should know about when it comes to thyroid dysfunction. Provide you with some tools that you can leave following this live stream. This is not going to be a super duper long live stream, so don't sweat it if you are pressed for time. It is going to be remaining on my channel, but I would suggest that you stay until the end because I'm going to be giving you resources. A lot of the resources that I use, have used for myself, how I have been able to grow back my hair, being one of them. I was losing hair so bad at one point that I would have anxiety when I took a shower because so much hair was coming out. I wasn't able to walk around the block with my husband for an hour, and it was just a relaxed city walk without feeling completely laid out. So if you're somebody who struggles with low energy, if you're someone who struggles with a lot of mental health issues, listen, I know that right now, especially during the vid, it has been increasingly trying time, so my heart does go out with you. So there's obviously more issues than just, say, for example, your thyroid, but I really want to provide you with the tools, which is exactly what you're going to receive here, absolutely for free. And you're also going to get a lot of takeaways from here, and also an amazing bonus that if you do want to be able to work with me further, I'm also going to give you that opportunity to do so at a discounted rate. So this is going to be some pretty amazing stuff that we're going to dive into right here. So I'm just going to make sure that I pull up our call right now. So I have to make sure that everything is chugging along okay. And we're going to dive right in. Okay, so I'm going to pull this up here. For 2 seconds here, and you're probably going to hear me speak twice, so just bear with me for 1 second here. Going to be some pretty amazing. There we go. All right. Okay, so let's dive into some of these causative factors. Why do I not say root cause? I don't say root cause because I feel that it gives the impression to people that one thing caused their thyroid issues. And the thing that I want you to really understand from listening to this live stream is that, frankly, one thing did not cause your thyroid issues. It didn't. It's like saying that when a marriage falls apart, one thing caused the marriage to fall apart. It rarely does. Your thyroid is no different. And when I say root cause, I feel that it gives people this perception that they're searching for that one thing. And as a result, I find so many women are chasing symptoms, and it's such an ass-backwards approach when it comes to thyroid health and anything to do with your health in that, for that fact. Lindy says, I didn't feel normal, but TSH was okay 2 years ago, and doc only tested TSH. Used every little while and discovered I was positive for the TPO antibodies, and TSH was over 13. So this is extremely common. I want to be able to just touch upon this because I think it's a really good note that Lindy wrote here. So what happens is your doctor oftentimes will just say, like, oh, everything is normal, but the problem is that they're doing very incomplete labs. They're only testing TSH. Sometimes they test T4. And one of the things that I want to share with you guys, because it is a point of major confusion for so many people, is, well, I don't understand what to ask for. I have no idea what to go in and ask for. So I'm going to put down a guide, because I told you guys I'm going to give you guys some free stuff, which is amazing. But I've put down my Thyroid 411 guide, and in that guide, when you download it, you're going to get my free hair loss check sheet. So it'll talk about different types of hair loss that a lot of women experience and what they can do, because not all hair loss is because of the same reason. And hair loss tends to be a pretty big issue with thyroid disorders as well, but not obviously exclusive to that. And also in that free guide, you're going to also receive a full checklist of things to get tested. And if your doctor is giving you pushback, then the beauty is that we're also going to be able to help to support you with where to get the testing done. Because I really don't want to be that gatekeeper for all those things. Okay, so let's break some of this stuff down. Okay, so make sure you grab that guide, guys, because it's really amazing. So the one thing I want to let you guys know is when you're looking at understanding the causative factors behind your condition, one really big mistake I think a lot of women make is that they feel like, well, it's because of my genes. My mom had, thyroid disorders. My aunt had it. My grandmother had it. This is the reason why I have it. You are not at mercy to your genes at all. We all come in with a certain amount of baggage. It can be inherited for sure. Genes do play a part in our health and our mental health, our physical health, but it's not exclusive to that. Like, you have to remember something called epigenetics, where your genes are influenced by your environment. So how you eat, how you're showing up in your life, and when I say that, I mean, are you sleeping? All the basics. They sound basic, but they're extremely important, because Lord knows I see so many women who are the exact same women who are complaining that everything is so expensive, but they're not doing the few things in life that are free that probably make some of the biggest impacts on their health, including sleep. It is so freaking vital. The other thing that I want to let you know about, a causative factor that we are going to discuss, is 1000% the gut. And I say this because so many women that I've met along my professional journey will be the same women who go into, a health food store, and they'll say, hey, do you have a supplement for this? Or, they're taking a specific supplement for their thyroid condition. And the problem then becomes that they are chasing symptoms. Your thyroid issue is a symptom, whether it's hypothyroidism, whether it's Graves', whether it's Hashimoto's. And 97% of women who have hypothyroidism have an autoimmune condition. And if you have one autoimmune condition, the chances are you have multiple. It's called polyautoimmunity. But gut issues are probably the biggest reasons that we always address in my hormone membership program, Sexy Lady Balls. And it is a really big issue. And I have women who come in and they'll say, oh, I do have gut issues. I have candida, or, candida is a big one that we often see, and they have been on multiple. If any of you guys have been on a candida diet, I see so many women who go on candida diets, and I shudder, only because it is rare that I put someone on a candida diet. The other thing that I will state when it comes to this is that it's generally not the first thing that we address. Usually the first thing that we address are infections. So we're going to be looking at things like parasites, usually are the biggest ones that we address first. And the reason why is because they are bigger and badder than candida. They are bigger than badder than many different conditions that we often see. Now, this may also drive home for you that, oh, okay, I should do a parasitic cleanse. That's where I should start, because Melissa said that this is what, she usually addresses first. The problem is the approach to how you address those are vastly different in so many different practitioners. One of the things that I want to make very big mention of is that you have to make sure elimination pathways are open. So your elimination pathways include things like your skin. You have to make sure you're sweating. You have to make sure that you're pooping. I did a whole video about colonics. It was my last video that I did last week on my YouTube channel. You can hear all about it. Listen all about it, find out about it. And honestly, because so many things are shut down right now, if all you do is an enema, if you're on a protocol, that's obviously better than nothing. Other things that are elimination pathways are your lungs. So how many of us are actually doing proper breathing exercises? When we do things like breath work, for example, it can really help to open up the diaphragm. And by opening up the diaphragm, you're really helping to increase oxygen capacity in the lungs, but you're also moving the lymphatic system, which is another elimination pathway, and it's also known as the shock absorber, the emotional shock absorber, I should say. And you often don't hear people talk about the lymphatic system. So dry skin brushing is a great tool to incorporate. You can get a loofah sponge, you can get an actual dry skin brush, and you always dry skin brush towards the heart. On the abdomen, I tend to go in a circular fashion. It can be really helpful. Another elimination pathway is your liver. Your liver is a big one. So in an upcoming video on my YouTube channel, I'm going to be talking about castor oil packs. I love them, and they're very helpful, but I'm going to be showing you I kind of call it the lazy man's castor oil pack, because I always avoided doing them before because I felt that they were so much work. So stay tuned for that video as well. So those are some of your elimination pathways, and they have to be open. And so if you are someone who's gone into the health food store and you've picked up a parasitic cleanse, newsflash, they're probably not as they're probably enough to detox a hamster. I know this because I used to work in health food stores ages ago before I was a practitioner, and they're really not that effective. So work with someone who knows what they're doing. This is the kind of stuff that we do in my hormone membership program. That is absolutely massive. Because if you are not addressing the co-infections, you're really going to struggle. Because what happens, especially anybody here struggle with depression at all, I can tell you right now that if you are somebody who has a thyroid condition, depression, anxiety, they're things that they're so prevalent. And oftentimes it's due to gut infections. With gut infections in particular, I will let you know that they love to gobble up on neurotransmitters. So things like serotonin, your feel-good, happy hormone. All these amazing neurotransmitters. GABA is another one that helps us feel calm and chill so we can go to bed later on in the evening. But they gobble up on it. So sometimes I even see women who are on a protocol that we've put them on who may end up having a worsening of their symptoms because I always think of like a protest in my body that's saying, hell no, we won't go. Because right now I'm on a protocol that I've put together for myself. And sometimes it can be really, really intense. You can get a worsening of these symptoms that you may experience, or things that you haven't experienced in forever. So for example, I don't think you guys can see this. I'm going to come up really close to the camera. See that? Right there. It's called angular cheilitis. I haven't had these since I was probably about like a kid. I used to get them really, really frequent when I was like 9, 10 years old, and they've been coming up. So I know that I'm unearthing a bunch of things. The craziness about gut infections and why I'm so obsessed with gut infections, and why I can talk about this till the cows come home, and why women are constantly chasing symptoms. And it drives me crazy because the biggest thing that I see women do on social media when I post things on Instagram, and if you are not following me on Instagram, just search sexy food therapy, all one word, and you'll find me. But they'll just complain about their issues. And my biggest, and even on YouTube, and the thing I always ask is, okay, well then what are you doing about it? And then it's like crickets. So I almost sometimes believe that there are certain people who actually benefit from feeling victimized. What are you doing about it? What can you do? Be proactive about these solutions, because the help is there for you. I do want to let you guys know that for this live stream, we've put something together that's a little special for you all. And I'm giving you guys a VIP rate for Sexy Lady Balls, my hormone membership program. It's usually about $57 a month, but I'm putting down here the offer for $47, and this does not go up. You end up locking in this rate, and it's going to be only for people on this live stream. So if you guys are interested, I would love, love, love to be able to have the opportunity to work with you further. And if you obviously have wondered about working with me, this is a great way to do it. So when we're talking about these gut infections, oftentimes when you're trying to work on stuff, these gut infections, they can burrow into the mucous membranes. They can hide out in the liver and gallbladder. So for example, when you get blood work done, if you have various enzymes, well, you do have enzymes, these liver enzymes, AST and ALT. If you see these on your blood work, and by the way, Get copies of your blood work, ladies. So many of you guys do not have copies of your blood work, and you should be getting blood work done every 6 months. Get copies. You can set up an account with the lab. That way you don't have to wait for your physician. You know, you can get access immediately when those labs are in. And I would suggest to you strongly to look at them. Start to familiarize yourself with it. ALT and AST are liver enzymes. If those come up elevated, one of the things that I think to myself is there any sort of infection that is burrowing and hiding out? Because guess what? These little stealth critters, they're stealth. They like to hide. And, you know, it's really important to be able to uncover that, because if you're someone who grapples with frustration and anger in Chinese medicine, this is very much an impairment with the liver. And your liver is very much a part of your digestive system. For me, the digestive system is king. We do test hormones in Sexy Lady Balls. Like, these are obviously upgrades because, you know, you're not going to get testing for $47 a month. Otherwise, I'd be going broke because, you know, that's not the way that testing works. But I rarely ever test hormones first because your hormones are only chemical messengers. What's throwing them off? That's what I'm more interested in looking at. It doesn't mean that hormone testing is something you should never do, because I do think it's helpful at times, but I'm always more interested in the why. So things that you have to really consider, at least removing from your world right now, because I want to give you guys some amazing takeaways. Number one, please remove gluten. I know that you've probably heard this up and down, and you may have said, well, I've removed gluten, or I don't have a problem with gluten. I don't have the reactions that so many people have. But here's a really insane stat. When you eat gluten, it actually creates destruction in the small intestine, believe it or not, in as little as 5 minutes. Anybody else kind of like floored by that? Because I am. 5 minutes. It starts to actually create permeability of the small intestine. And I think that this is a banana stat because it takes so much longer to start to repair a leaky gut. And some women will then say to me, do I have a leaky gut? What do I do about it? How do I know if I have one? If you have thyroid issues, you have a leaky gut. Period. It's without a doubt, there's a leaky gut. One of my favorite, and I'm actually just going to share this with you guys here. I'm going to grab the bottle because I love doing visual representation. And the beauty of me living in a small space is I can do that without being too far away from you guys. Okay, so this is something I take, and I want to share, obviously, because I mentioned to you guys I want to share some tools that have really helped me. My antibodies for my thyroid were... gosh, they were close to 400, which is high. And I was able to reduce my thyroid antibodies. I had one nodule that was close to being biopsied for cancer. I had a bunch of nodules on the other side. So I want to share with you guys some tools so that you can leave this call with those tools to empower you. So please make sure that you grab the thyroid guide if you have not already. And please, if you are like, you know what, I just want to jump into it. I really want to work with you. I'm so fucking done feeling like crap. Then join us in SLB because there's that VIP rate that I've given only to you folks. Okay, so the product that I love for a leaky gut is called Mega Mucosa. Okay. Mega Mucosa, and I'm just actually going to write here the link on where to get it because you actually have to get it from a practitioner. I really like this product. It is very sweet, so if you have a sweet tooth, you'll totally dig it. If you don't, maybe not so much, but it's like I put about 1 scoop in water with or without meals, and I really, really like it. Okay, so I'm just going to put that here for you guys. So I love this stuff. This stuff is an immunoglobulin. It is a dairy-free immunoglobulin. It's really good for modulating the immune system, so balancing the immune system. It's very good for inflamed intestinal lining. But again, this is not a get-out-of-jail-free card, so it's not like, oh yes, I can go eat gluten now. It's not how it works. So remove the gluten. It should be very much a non-negotiable. Now, if you're somebody who's watching and you're like, oh gosh, I've tried, I can't seem to get the carbs out of my world. Number one, I want to let you know carbs are not the devil. So first and foremost, carbs are not the devil. You actually do need carbohydrates, okay? Despite, I did a video earlier in this YouTube channel about my autoimmune diet, and I talked about that because a lot of people ask me about it. And yes, I do eat a very, I eat an animal based diet because it's what I feel has helped me the most with my autoimmunity, my thyroid autoimmunity, because I react to a lot of different foods. And that's extremely common. A lot of women who have thyroid dysfunction have underlying food intolerances. But the only reason why that exists to begin with is due to gut infections. It's the only reason why. So clear up those gut infections and you're going to start to see that your thyroid begins to improve. Your mental health will start to improve. But don't be surprised when you're doing some of this work that if emotionally even old stuff begins to come up. So physically, as I mentioned to you, that little angular cheilitis I have is like cracked corners of the mouth. They're not cold sores. But I got this when I was a kid. So I'm like, how on earth am I getting this now? It's an actual healing reaction that I'm getting. I've seen this happen where women all of a sudden get, eczema that they haven't had for ages, or psoriasis that they haven't had in ages, or maybe a weird, itchy patch on their skin that they used to get when they were a kid, or asthma all of a sudden comes up. The body begins to really heal in layers, and I find that it's so fascinating to see those layers and peeling the layers of an onion. Oh, great question. I take Mega IgG 2000. Is that comparable? That's a great question. So number one, if you guys do get the Mega Mucosa powder, please make sure that you might get confused because it'll ask you to register an account first. You have to do that before buying. The Mega IgG, for reference, for those of you guys who are wondering what that question pertains to, is from the same company. It's in capsules, and unlike this product that has the amino acids, which I find can be really helpful, a lot of women just don't like the taste of this. So a lot of women will find that the Mega IgG 2000 is great. So honestly, Suzanne, I would stay taking that if that's been working for you. But in some cases, I've actually had people take the Mega IgG 2000, which is 4 capsules a day, plus do 1 to 2 scoops of this a day, where I found that their gut integrity was so compromised that we needed to really restore balance. If I have coverage for Nutritious, can I claim the cost of SLB? It just depends on your provider. So we absolutely can issue a receipt for you for sure. You just have to contact admin. So people ask us that all the time, and it's a really great question, Jennifer. The answer just is it depends on your insurance company, but we're always more than happy to provide, like, say, for example, a receipt. Okay, so I mentioned gluten's a big one. When people are really struggling with carbs and they're saying, I can't get the carbs out of my world, you don't have a diet problem, you have a lifestyle problem. How many of you guys stay up late? You're literally going to always struggle with being able to stay on any plan if you're constantly tired. Okay, so any single time that I see someone who has insatiable cravings, it could be a gut infection. I know we're going back to that again, but certain gut infections can really create really bad cravings. I remember, like, during my protocol, at one point I was having such an intensity of cravings. I have a sweet tooth, and all I wanted to do was eat dried mango and chocolate. That's all I wanted to eat. But I was like, wow, this is like an intensity like I've never felt. But it really demands that you up-level your self-parenting, because the majority of you are taking care of everybody else at the expense of yourselves. And I think and I feel that society has almost conditioned women to love everybody and everything else to the point that we cease to exist. And in my opinion, it's time that shit stopped. The other thing that I want to let you guys know, as I mentioned before, is that we need carbs. So what I normally suggest is just what I say in my membership, and I'll just reiterate it here because you guys showed up and I super appreciate you being here. But in the first half of your cycle, which is day 1 of your period, okay, so day 1 of your period, not when you spot, that's not day 1. So day 1 of your period until, say, about day 14, 15, around there, even up to day 16, you can really concentrate on more of a low-carb, high-fat diet, okay? Just prior to ovulation, so I usually do this at around like day 15, day 16 or so, I will introduce some carbohydrates for myself. We actually have recipes in my membership where we introduce various carbohydrates because you need them. You need them to ovulate. You need them for progesterone production. And the second half of your cycle, believe it or not, here's the great news. You need 200 up to 240 more calories in the second half of your cycle. This is bananas. And I kind of like that because I love to eat. I love to eat. So this doesn't mean that I'm like going crazy with all the carbs, but it does mean that I tend to have 2 carbier days in the week where I might be adding a little bit more. We've got like this recipe called PMS sweet potato wedges that I really love. I'll incorporate that, but I do stay away from grains. And that's one thing that I will say is a really big one, because there's a lot of cross reactivity that can happen. Even if you get, for example, Bob's Red Mill gluten-free oats, I still avoid grains because they're very high in lectins. And lectins are an example of one of the many phytonutrients that are there that can really prevent nutrient absorption. And unfortunately, in cases of thyroid dysfunction, there is going to be some level of malabsorption of nutrients because there's a leaky gut present and because there are gut infections present that needs to be addressed. Christine says, I have hypo and have been on NDT, but I've lost weight this year, 10 pounds. Congratulations. Then went hypo. My ND is adjusting my dose, but now my mood is low. Gaining weight and BMs are different. Any suggestions? So it's hard to say without knowing your entire case because, frankly, I don't know you from an apple. So it's hard because I'm not working with you. I will say that a lot of women that we work with are in tandem also working with a naturopath or what have you, because the beauty of the membership is that you get access to me. I'm in the group. I've got 2 practitioners who are in the group as well, fielding and asking and there to answer questions as well. So you get access, you get recipes, you get meal plans, you get all types of coaching calls that are really, really helpful that can support you through that. So I would strongly suggest to join us because it's really, really helpful. Francesca says, just wondering if you covered hair loss yet. My doctor has attributed this to stress during COVID, but I feel like it's more than that. Or can I discuss further in SLB, which I'm a member? So hair loss is a symptom. It's 1,000% a symptom. The question is, why is the hair loss there? Okay. Why is the hair loss there? So if you're a member, amazing. I would drop that question in the group because we certainly can help you investigate why that's the case. You don't just lose, you can lose hair from stress. There's no question. I lost a ton of hair due to stress before, but there could be many other reasons that are happening there that we can support that. So definitely, Francesca, let us know. Is vertigo related to autoimmunity? Vertigo is a symptom. Many people have vertigo. It could be, a physical misalignment that could be happening. There could be multiple reasons for vertigo. So to say that it's autoimmunity, it could, but it may not be. It's hard to say without knowing anything about you. Okay, so I also want to kind of go through a little bit more of this stuff, and I know you guys have a lot of questions. The other really big thing that I want to share with you guys that happens, and we're talking a lot about the gut in this call, these causative factors behind it. When we have gut infections, which is something that we absolutely can help you with in SLB and Sexy Lady Balls, we end up seeing a lot of nutrient depletions, as I mentioned. And one very big one that we see is a zinc depletion. This doesn't mean that you should go run out and buy zinc. Because you shouldn't take zinc long term, because what happens is it can offset your copper balance. You need both. But what zinc does is it helps to rebuild its intestinal lining. If you are an avid coffee drinker, it can pull zinc. During times of stress, you definitely can lose a lot of zinc. And we also need zinc specifically to produce stomach acid. A very big issue that a lot of women have who have hypothyroidism have something called hypochlorhydria, which is low stomach acid. And before, again, running out to the health food store to be like, okay, I need to get digestive enzymes to have stomach acid in it. If you have gut infections and you're taking stomach acid, believe it or not, you could actually be compounding the issue. So I'd be very, very, very careful with that. I think there's this perception about parasitic and gut infections that this only happens in third world countries. But depending on the source, between like up to 70% of Americans, and I would imagine that Canadians, the stat would be very similar, are infected with parasitic infection. So there's a huge part with it. I see this correlation with women who have Lyme disease, which is a huge thing that we see in practice as well, especially with autoimmune conditions, because there are tick-associated parasites. We see the correlation with mold, definitely parasitic infections with mold as well. They're always present. So if you are treating things out of order, what you're going to end up finding is that you're just not going to get results. How do I know if my naturopath does the right gut health test for parasites? Ask them. Ask them. That would be the biggest thing I would do. If you've been going to a naturopath and all they've been doing is giving you supplements, for your thyroid and maybe some adrenal support, and they're not addressing the underlying layer, then it's time to work with somebody else. Because there are good practitioners and they're not so good practitioners. I don't know anything about your naturopath, but I would ask them. Can you clean up your language, please? It's hard to hear and respect what you say when you have... If you don't like the way that I show up, then I would suggest that you leave this live stream, because I'm not... I'm showing up as authentically as me. And if it offends you or if it bothers you, then it's probably not the place for you. So I would suggest that maybe this is not the right live stream for you. But I definitely am not going to change how I show up. The other thing, since we're talking about gut infections, that I really want to address is the prevalence of something called SIBO. So that stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So small intestinal bacterial overgrowth is so common with women in hypothyroidism and thyroid issues in general. And the test for SIBO sucks. It's something that we can test for, but we generally don't. The reason why is there is a huge margin of error when it comes to that testing. So I don't like to do that test. I generally just look for gut infections first. So other foods to avoid besides gluten if you have hypothyroidism. So I mentioned gluten, no gluten. I would mention no grains. Michelle, that's one that I would avoid. I would probably remove dairy unless you know for certain that you have no problems with dairy. I do consume dairy, but only in small amounts of it, and forms like goat or sheep, for example. But I don't generally... it's not something I would suggest for everybody, like, hey, consume dairy. This is a great thing. So grains, gluten, dairy. I almost hate to say this, but I also would suggest testing, and I'm going to share with you how to test for this. So consider potentially removing eggs for just a wee bit, okay? So I bring this up because... it's like usually what you love the most has a capacity to hurt you the most. And that goes with just about everything in life, unfortunately. But I bring up eggs. So for example, if you want to see, do I have a problem with eggs? You would take out that food for 14 days. Then following those 14 days, you would bring back your eggs in isolation. So away from anything. So for example, let's just say maybe you did a hard-boiled egg. And you ate that on its own for 4 days. On its own. Not with anything else, but on its own. Like an hour away from anything. And this is how that you can generally test for certain foods. And the reason why that I say that is because 3 to 4 days is really important. Because unlike immediate food reactions, which are like, I eat something... I feel like this immediately. That's a different antibody versus sometimes you can get a delayed reaction emotionally, physically that can occur 3 to 4 days later. And that makes it really hard for people because, I don't know, they might eat an apple and then they'll say, oh, I have this horrible reaction. It must be the apple. But it might not have been the apple. It might have been something that they ate 2 to 3 days ago. So that's a different antibody that gets triggered. And that's why I said, remove the food. So for example, remove eggs for 14 days and then introduce them back in for 3 to 4 days and just monitor, like a food diary, any reactions that you have. So that would be one that I would suggest. I do talk a little bit about food and etc., the foods that I eat in that video, my autoimmune diet, so definitely check that out. Let's see. That was a great question, Michelle. Gigi says, is blurry vision a symptom of hypothyroidism? Not necessarily, but blurred vision could be for a variety of different factors. But fun fact for you, maybe not so fun, but the liver in Chinese medicine opens up to the eyes. So, and any type of one-sided issue in the body tends to be liver related. Rita, hell yeah, good answer. I keep hearing that we need to work on drainage before anything else on podcasts. What do you suggest to do to work on this? This is exactly what we would help you with in SLB. So we 1000% can help you with working on drainage pathways. Would be something that we would help in the membership. So I am definitely going to make sure that I just kind of repost that and remind some of you guys who are coming in a little bit later into this live stream. We do have this discounted VIP rate that we're giving to people who are watching in, and it's a really great opportunity to get a lot of your questions answered. My GI chose to treat SIBO empirically, no difference after taking expensive antibiotics. So apparently I do not have SIBO. Yeah, this is the problem. It's like, you know, when we see someone who has SIBO, I have seen, gosh, Suzanne, I can tell you, I've seen so many women who repeatedly come through our door who have been on expensive antibiotics or a lot of natural antibiotics, and they continually have this issue. And I'm like, you shouldn't be treating the bacteria first. It's not the way that we go about it. So here's a fun, not fun, but we have a member in Sexy Lady Balls, and all the members in our membership, if, for example, you had an issue, various gut infections or specific ones that are highly contagious, like H. pylori, it affects 2/3 of the world's population, guys, and it's highly contagious via saliva. So if you have it, chances are your partner has it, okay? So oftentimes, women in our membership will say, "I would really like my husband to upgrade, get testing with you guys, and see one of your practitioners." We're like, "Sure." One husband who's the husband of one of our members, and he's been working with us on his gut. He upgraded to get testing. He saw one of our practitioners. And, this guy's been working really, really hard. He's been doing all the right things. And sometimes it takes time. It depends on the individual. It's like the classic question I get from people is like, well, how long is it going to take until I heal? Number one, you don't have to heal because you're not broken to begin with. So start from there. And number two, it depends on you, your condition. You're beautifully unique, and also your level of commitment. For this gentleman, he was such a rock star, but it took literally 6 months of active work on his gut. And you know what he did? One day he sent us a photo after he pooped and a massive worm came out. So it's like, you have to remember that and I know that might be too much information. Hopefully you guys are not eating lunch if you're in Eastern Standard Time Zone. But a lot of these critters hide. They burrow in the membranes, the mucous membranes, in the liver, in the gallbladder. So you have to also remember that as well. Okay, I just love when you confirm what my body tells me. It helps me eat without guilt. Awesome. That's what I want, because I don't feel that so many people are restricting their diet, especially with Candida protocols, and I just think that it's the wrong approach, because yeah, you have to address and remove some things, but if you're not actually doing the right things, the right protocols, then you're really going to struggle. Definitely Candida is a part of the picture, for sure. But oftentimes we have to look at what's affecting it. Other big causative factors that I'm just going to touch upon, because I don't want to take up too much of your time, guys. Mold is a really big one we see. I'm going to give you guys a resource that you guys can test yourselves. Let's see here. There we go. Actually, you know what? I'm going to get the specific link for you. So there's a specific test. This is very preliminary, by the way, so just know that. But do this test, and this will help to give you an idea if mold could be potentially behind your issues. Okay? Just going to put this down here. Okay, so that test is like roughly, I think, not even $20. It's really cheap. And I would highly, highly suggest to you guys to try that out and see if that could potentially be one of the issues that is behind there, because believe it or not, they had estimated that roughly a quarter, and I would imagine it's so much greater than that, of people who are struggling with their thyroid, that they actually have an underlying mold issue. So if you have weight that doesn't budge, very much could be gut related. It's always the gut, always, always, always. Mold we definitely look at, but sometimes, women will come to us with that preliminary test and go, hey, look, I tested, and I probably have mold. I generally will say, okay, we will probably work on that, but there's like a method of order in terms of what we're approaching first versus just throwing every single bomb at your issues. If I have subclinical hypothyroidism, says Michelle, is it advisable to be treated with thyroid hormone versus waiting it out? I think oftentimes a lot of women who are struggling with their thyroid issues absolutely can be taking thyroid hormones. Because sometimes you need symptomatic support, right? Like, it's okay to address the underlying factors behind your thyroid issues, but you also need symptomatic support. So thyroid hormones can be really helpful in tandem. Like, I'm on thyroid hormones right now, Michelle. I'm on natural desiccated thyroid hormone. I'm on a very low dose of it. I've actually been able to lower my dose of my thyroid hormone as I've been working on all the other things, because you can have that as your supportive, but then work on all the underlying gut stuff that is there as well. So those are extremely important, because a lot of women who I work with who are struggling so hard with their mental health, with their adrenals, with the burnout. And I mean, listen, we're living in unprecedented times right now. Like, it weighs so heavy on me sometimes that I have to kind of limit my amount of social media sometimes because I find it so inundating. But you need support. You need a community who gets you, because as much as, your friends and family love you, this is the exact reason why I developed a membership around it, because we're there to support you as much as humanly possible. So I really do hope that you guys can take on some of these amazing resources that I have put together here. I will repost the Thyroid 411 guide here again for you guys. That's absolutely free. That includes my hair loss check sheet and what each of those hair loss patterns mean, what supplements to take for specific ones. But again, it is a symptom, so remember that. And also, if that thyroid, the mold test there, that's really cheap and cheerful. It is preliminary, but it might give you some ahas. So if you've ever lived in a home that's had water damage, mold can also grow very much in the vents in bathrooms if you take those scalding hot showers. Don't do that, guys. Hot showers activate chemicals in your water. So you want to take lukewarm showers, end them with cold, because it helps with the inflammatory process, and it also helps to boost your serotonin levels. It sucks every single time, but it does help. What's your take on cheek acne? I started it with mask wearing, but now I'm thinking it may not be mask related. That's all gut related. All gut related. So many digestive meridians run through your face. If you're struggling with acne, if you're struggling with rosacea, if you're struggling with eczema, if you're struggling with, it's gut related, just as thyroid issues are as well. So I want to put all that stuff out here, and I also want to be able to thank you guys so much for coming to this workshop, to be able to help you guys as much as possible. I also want to thank the ballers who are listening in here. I absolutely love and value you guys so much. You guys are like my sisters. It really is my life's work, is that membership. It's where I show up, and I just have so much heart for it. So if any of you guys want to be able to work with me, I would love the opportunity to have that honor of doing so with you as well. So you can absolutely get in on that VIP rate, the $47 rate. Just know that there's going to be a limited time here. I'm going to probably leave it up for about 72 hours because I want people to have the chance to watch this replay. But if you're humming and hawing, $47 a month is a really great deal to get all the support that we provide there. And if you want to get testing, we absolutely have those options that are available for you as upgrades. So that is it, guys. Thank you so much for being here and listening in to some of the thyroid causes and symptoms that you may be struggling with. And I really do hope to have the opportunity to work with you guys soon. All right.